Here is the 1972 Allen digital computer organ. We now have the new amp and preamp system hooked up. We've currently got it just hooked up to the original speakers here inside the church. But I do plan to expand to an additional amplifier and other speakers on the other side of the sanctuary. This church sanctuary at Midland Lutheran Church, Midland, Texas, was built in, I believe, 1991, or sometime right around 1989 to 91. The original church sanctuary is now the fellowship hall, and of course this Allen organ was originally in the other church, the other sanctuary. The old speakers that went with it originally are still in there. We're going to remove them from the walls, check to see if they need new woofers, replace the woofers if needed, and then set them out over here for additional sound output. But right now, we just upgraded on the ones that were put in here in the late 80s or early 90s. We'll first take a look inside the back of the Allen. I had some people ask about the inside of the Allen console. So we'll take another look at it here and some of the repairs I've done over the years. We've got new wiring for the power line, new capacitors in the power supplies, and new and wiring to replace bad brittle wiring. There's a new capacitor there. We've got a new MOS board in it. It's actually a second-hand board that Bill Erkey of Tyson Church Organ Solutions of Dallas procured for us. It's one that was salvaged from an old organ, but it really works good. It got rid of that awful intermittent tuning problem. So here's the MOS board code B146. And these use proprietary chips. The Allen factory will still exchange these, but they don't give out any schematics or repair parts. I guess they feel that it's best that they repair these in the factory, and I think they still will. We traded in our old board to Bill for the core value so he could send it back to the factory. But now that the new MOS board is in, the tone production system of the organ is working good. What I've improved upon now is the amp and preamp system. Originally this came with two Allen 40-watt transistor amps, and both of those amps failed shortly after I began playing the organ here a little more than 10 years ago. So I replaced them with public address amplifiers, and the sound quality, even with those old Allen amps or the public address amps, I was never satisfied with the sound quality. But I just had a mind to improve it and thought that maybe I was overloading the mic preamps in those amps, and sure enough, I'm pretty sure that's what was going on. The preamp system is here. It's a Mackie 402 VLZ3. And we're going into the line inputs. You can see here on the mic gain, we don't have it cranked up the whole way. The Allen output is kind of between a microphone and line in its signal strength. And if you go right into a microphone input on a public address amplifier that doesn't have a gain adjustment, you'll probably end up with distortion. And through these years I've been thinking that this Allen organ had inherent distortion. It may have just a touch of it, but most of that distortion was produced by overloading the mic preamp. But sometimes it takes a while for me to figure stuff out. It's always better when those things are figured out sooner rather than later, but it sounds like a new organ. It sounds like a different organ, literally, like a much higher quality instrument than the impression I got from it from all that distortion. The Allen system at this time uses two channels of audio. One is for flute and bass, and so if I play a pedal key here, you'll see that it's all coming through that channel. and the other is for principal, reed, and string. See, that's about equal. This is just the Celeste stop, so it's just coming through the string, principal, and reed channel there. And there's the flute and bass channel. But this allows me to make all the adjustments to equalization, gain, and level. It allows me to make them right at the organ console without having to go back into the area where the amp is to do that. And another advantage of the preamp is that we're not sending a microphone level signal all the way through the walls to the amps. I don't know why Alan decided to use such a low level signal. Hammond organs use a signal strong enough you could hook a little speaker up to it and hear it through a speaker. They use an extremely strong balanced signal going from the console to the amp and the tone cabinet. But for some reason Alan did not preamplify the signal before the amps. So this solves a variety of problems in the original Alan configuration. So now let's go into the area where the amp is. We'll take a look at the amp. The amp is an American Audio VLP 300. It's a 100 watt per channel power amplifier. And this, I was deciding of what kind of amp to buy, and this is not one of the more expensive ones. This is one of the cheaper amps, but I thought, well, it got pretty good reviews. And unfortunately, when it arrived, this had been bent. It had been bent all the way over. And I thought, oh no, but I didn't want to go through the hassle of sending it back. So I took off the cover, checked out all the internal components, didn't see any damage to the circuit boards or wiring, so I just bent the little mounting ear back, and it got bent right around the power connector, but I didn't see any damage inside. So rather than go through all the rigmarole of sending it back and a return authorization and all that, I thought, no, we'll just live with that little bit of denting on it as long as the amp works okay. And it works really good. It provides a good strong output. Get another one of these amps to power the other speaker bank, and I just have the gain control set about 1/3 of the way open on it, and just hooked it up to where I'd hooked up the inputs to the old amps, except I'm feeding a preamplified signal in, and these old public address amplifiers can go on to serve some other use. These things are just, they performed a valiant service when I had nothing else available, but now that I have some more resources available to buy some new amps, I thought I'm going to go for some good amps on this and boost up that sound quality. So it's bye-bye to the old low power amps, and now we've got good high powered audio on the organ. Make another video here demonstrating actually playing the organ. I'll put it all back together, but the sound quality is really improved. We'll try now some reed stops, crumhorn and shawmai. And it sounds a lot better. It sounds so much better. It just sounded like fuzzy, distorted junk before. And it would do well enough to play in a combination of stops, but individual stops did not really sound very good. So you would have heard in the previous video the sound quality of me playing the Complete Lutheran Liturgy. And it certainly wasn't bad, but this is a lot better. The distortion is gone, the fuzziness is gone, and with those additional amps, we'll get even more sound output. I was debating over how much amp power to use, And I didn't want to, I thought, well, there's 100 watt per channel, there's 200 watts per channel, but I didn't want to overload these speakers that were originally set up for a 40 watt per channel amp. So we just went with the 100 watt model, and that'll allow enough reserve capacity for peaks without clipping. So there's the new amp setup. I'm going to put this back together, and then we can do a demonstration of playing the organ.